Yeah, so hi everyone. Thanks for coming out.
It's our last meeting. Yeah, I guess this is our last meeting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Yeah.
Don't really have announcements,
We don't
so
have any announcements.
yeah, let's just get started with the workshop. So it's gonna be a personal finance workshop, and just a disclaimer, it's based off one of our CS professors' presentations, Carey. So
Oh, I've heard things about him.
he's great. He's great. He's great. Absolutely great.
I looked up a picture of him.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy. Really buff too.
Actually, I saw the pictures of him.
The rock climbing photos?
Yeah, dude, he
Yo,
is
that's
ripped.
crazy.
It's insane, like how strong he is.
Wow, props to him.
Yeah. Anyways, so if you guys want to check out the actual slides itself, it's on the Google Doc. I don't remember if I shared it to the group, so let me do that. Sorry, internet's kind of slow. Awesome. Okay. So going on towards the presentation itself. Yeah, so personal finance is like a really big deal after graduation. Like it's something to start keeping in mind, like even when you're in college, because it's basically the road that goes on until your retirement. So it's always good to like just plan ahead and be prepared for that. Yeah, so these are Carey's slides, and he claims it's about 80 minutes, but it should be a bit faster than that, I think. Yeah. So just a warning, these are just pieces of advice. Like it shouldn't be like taken like just as is. Like if you have other questions, perhaps like ask like your parents or like another trusted advisor, because these are just tips. So in order to live comfortably, you're probably going to need at least 10 times the amount of your final year's earnings upon retirement. And this is just like a bunch of statistics that Carey's gathered like over the years. And yeah, 10 times your final year's salary is probably a good amount in order to live a comfortable retirement. And yeah, that is quite a bit of money. So because of inflation and other things in the past 30, 40 years, what costs $581 now used to be $100 about 45 years ago. So it's a huge difference. So imagine how it'll be in 2062, like upon our retirement. And that's the UPE president in 45 years. So yeah, these are some of the estimated costs that Carey came up with. So it's gonna be it's just gonna be a lot of money. So that's why it's really important to save things, to save your investments on for your retirement, because of how crazy it's gonna get in the future. Yeah, so an important thing to keep in mind is the sooner you start investing, the more it's going to compound and it's going to be worth more. So $10K invested when you're 21 years old will turn into $443K by the time you're 65, assuming a 9% annual growth, which is what's been for the average for the stock market. So it's a big difference investing now versus if you're the same 10K invested when you're 35, which is only going to be 133K by the time you're 65. So that's a significant difference. So the moral is you want to invest earlier and just get started as soon as possible. Yeah, so you can see the trends in this graph, and it's a significant difference if you start saving earlier on. Yeah, so start investing early because of compound interest. So what's the point of all of this? You have to start taking an active role in managing your finances, and just landing a job is just the first step. Like it takes Sorry. It takes a lot of financial planning. It's like just having like a stable job isn't enough. You have to really, really think ahead in terms of that. So what are some of the important factors? Is it salary, signing bonus, company stock, profit sharing, or 401k matching? It could be, but there's other important things to keep in mind. One of the important things is like you have to really like who you're working with, because having a great manager is like really the best way for you to grow as in terms of your career. Because if you have a really bad manager, then you're really not going to enjoy what you're doing. You're probably going to want to switch to like a different company or even career path. So a good manager can really make or break your decisions in terms of your career planning. So that's something to keep in mind. You want a team of smart people that you can learn from, because if you're the smartest person on your team, you probably won't grow as much as if you were just learning from other really talented individuals. So this is very important in terms of personal growth, because sort of like if you get too accustomed to like what you're doing, you sort of stagnate, in my opinion, in terms of your skill set. So this is just something to keep in mind, to keep diversifying your portfolio and try to keep building up your knowledge base. And then work-life balance is another very important thing. So for most people, you generally don't want to work like too crazy of a work schedule. Like there's some companies that literally work you like 60, 70, 80 hours a week, which is really insane. So you really want to keep in mind the quality of your work-life balance. So then this is another very important factor. Yeah, so and then also be open to working in new areas, like as long as you're learning and growing. Don't limit yourself to just like one location. Like there's probably opportunities for growth anywhere. But yeah, what about compensation? And here's Bernie. Natchenberg loves Bernie. Yeah, so compensation is broken down into 6 major areas. Your base salary, which is your guaranteed wage. This presentation was geared mostly toward the tech industry, so I'm not sure how it is in other industries, like maybe like healthcare or like research, but it's still, they probably have something similar though. Yeah, so base salary is pretty standard across all fields. Signing relocation bonus, it might be more in terms of like certain tech firms, but I'm not sure. It's basically a one-time bonus to attract you to the job. RSUs are shares of your company's stock that invest over a 3 or 4 year period. I've seen some companies like Amazon do 5, so it really depends on the company. You have an employee stock purchase plan, which allows you to buy your company's stock at 15% below market value. So this actually turns out pretty useful in the long run. I'm not sure if 15% is a standard across like all industries, but I think it's fairly common. And then you have what's called profit sharing, which is an annual bonus based on your performance and your company's performance as well as a 401k match, which is basically when the company gives you free money to save for your retirement. So let's start off with RSUs. So what are these? These are basically restricted stock units that you're granted when you join a company. So when you sign on, you're given a certain amount of shares of your company's stock. But there's a catch to it. You don't get them all right away. They're vested over usually like a 3 to 4 year period. So let's say if it's vested over a 4 year period, you get 1/4 at the end of each year. Yeah, so in this case, this is sort of like a graph to just show like how it accumulates over time, and it's usually some proportion. Like if it's a 4 year period, yeah, you get 1/4 each year. Yeah, so just a little annotation there. Yeah, so a common strategy that companies have, if you do a good job, they will often give you additional restricted stock units to keep you at the company, because they don't want you leaving if you're a really high performer. So this is just a way of like keeping you within the company. Yeah, so it might pile on like that. Yeah, so some more information about RSUs. They are taxable, so you have to be careful about that. So each time RSUs are deposited into your account, you have to pay some taxes, but you pay taxes only on gains when you receive them. So what your company usually will do is compute the dollar amount of your shares and treat them as income like your base salary, and then they'll hold back enough shares to cover the tax cost, which will usually be part of like the nationwide tax and, if applicable, your state tax. So for example, if you have 100 shares vested, in California they'll take away probably around a third of it. So you'll be given between 60 to 70 shares after taxes. Yeah, so whatever you're left over, they're now vested, meaning you can do whatever you want with them. You could keep them, you could sell them right away, etc. But when you do sell them, yeah, you only pay taxes on gains since you received them. But there's also another catch. If you leave the company, you forfeit all your unvested RSUs. So a common strategy that Carey mentioned was if you're going to leave a company, if you want to do like job hopping, it's actually fairly common. You generally want to do it at the end of the year because that's when you get your RSUs, and then you could just literally cash in. Like you could just like sell all your stock, get some profit, and then say bye, guys.
It's like, it's been nice working with
Yeah.
you. Bye.
It's actually fairly common. Like
yeah,
you're not bound to the company, so. But yeah, like that's a common strategy that I've heard. So another thing is the employee stock purchase plan. So usually what you can do is your company will let you designate up to 10% of your salary to be put aside to purchase company stock at a discount. So this has some nice benefits as well. Your company will then automatically withhold this amount and save it to their own bank account. And whenever, every 6 months, you could use these funds to buy a certain percentage of shares, I believe, at 15% below stock's current market value. So this is nice because like whenever you purchase the stock, you could always sell it later and make a 15% profit since you get below market value, and you could sell it at market value, which is pretty nice. Yeah, and the shares are deposited into your account, and they're for you to sell. And as always, yeah, you have to be careful about like paying taxes. When you sell it, you do have to pay taxes, so you have to be aware of that. So a general tip he mentioned was never accumulate more than 10% of your assets into company stock. There are cases in the past of companies like Enron, which had a major scandal in the early 2000s, and it's something to do with like they were overinflating like whatever their stock was actually worth, so they cost their shareholders like millions of dollars. So yeah, as soon as the stock tanked, like everything just went bad, and then they got into a lot of trouble. Part of Enron got arrested for fraud and things like that. So even if you're like you really enjoy working at your company, like you're very loyal to it, you always have to assume the worst, like, and things could happen very badly. So stock could drop 50% overnight or even worse. So yeah, you don't want to be like too loyal to your company even if you love it. So if you find more than 10% of your assets are in the company stock, you should sell some of it immediately to get it below 10%. So regarding profit sharing, that's the annual bonuses based on a few factors such as like your seniority in the company, your performance, as well as the company's financial performance. So when you're starting off for your entry level position, you will generally get a bonus of about 5% of your total salary, and as always, you have to pay taxes just like you do on a regular salary. And Bernie's happy. So initially, like you might not get a lot of bonus at the beginning, but it happens because sometimes the company is not doing too well. They might not have enough to provide. So like, don't feel too bad, I guess, if it's if you don't get a lot at the beginning. It happens. So this is important. 401k retirement plans. So this is essentially what you want to invest in order to prepare for retirement itself. So when you join a company, you open what's called a 401k account with a certain brokerage firm. So the example he mentioned was Vanguard, which I believe Google works with. And what you do is you designate a percentage of your salary to deposit each year into your 401k account. So so he said you could contribute up to 18k per year of your income to your 401k. And some companies are really nice and they'll match your 401k contributions and give you even more money. So at Google, where Carey works, if you contribute 18k, they'll throw in another 9k for free, which is very, very nice. And there are, you get to choose how to invest the money with your 401k. So there are several options. You could put it into stocks, bonds, or you could just leave it as cash. So he just threw out some statistics. I don't know what those mean, to be honest, but. So basically what a 401k fund is it's for your retirement. It's like not something you use like right away. So when you deposit stuff into your 401k, you really want to think long term. So the money generally has to stay there until you're around retirement age, which is around 65, 67, around that area. So if you try to take out money from your 401k before that, they'll generally impose like a big fine. So yeah, like once you put money into your 401k, you generally don't want to take it out until retirement age. Yeah, so you have to pay penalties and taxes.
And also there's something kind of similar to a 401k, but like if you're, it's like a lot of this stuff like retirement, it's like really weird to be thinking about this early in life, but it's something that you should be planning for. There is also something called the 529 plan, which is for college savings. So if you're planning to have kids and you want them to go to college, you can deposit money in a 529 savings plan. It's kind of similar to a 401k in that like you'll only be able to use it for expenses like college expenses that your kids end up having. But I think it's taxed at a lower rate, so it's like basically a good way to save up money for your kids' college expenses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the nice thing about these plans is what it does is since you're investing your money into a plan, it lowers your income to a lower tax bracket, so you don't have to pay a higher percentage. So that, yeah, essentially it'll lower some of the taxes you have to pay. And then depending on the type of plan, like it affects when you actually pay the taxes themselves. Yeah, so that's the nice thing about these plans because they save you on taxes. So there are two main types of 401ks, and each of them have different tax benefits. A regular 401k means you save taxes now and you pay later, and a Roth 401k means you pay taxes now and you save later. So you could contribute to either or both. So that's pretty nice. So yeah, for the regular 401k, you save on taxes now and you pay taxes later. So this is just an example. If you make 100k a year and you contribute 18k to your 401k, then the government reduces that amount, so you get put into a lower tax bracket. Yeah, so then you'll essentially only be taxed on only on 82k of income, which is nice, and Bernie isn't too happy about that. Yeah, so these are like if you do the calculations, that's what it comes out to. But the thing is, like when you retire and withdraw that 18k that you invested, that's when you have to pay the actual taxes themselves. So that's something to keep in mind with the regular 401k. And Roth 401k is the opposite of that. You pay taxes now, but none later. So yeah, this is just an example. You make 100k in income, and you pay taxes on the full 100k right now, which is roughly 33k. And then out of the remaining ones, you save a certain percentage into your Roth 401k. And when you retire, you don't have to pay any additional taxes on that 18K. Like it's all yours to keep, which is a nice thing. So which is better? What Carey personally recommends is generally taxes will keep going up and up like in the future. So what he said was to put all his money on Roth because generally the taxes you have to pay now, it won't be as much as what you would have to pay in about 45 years upon retirement. So that's his personal recommendation. Yeah, so these are just like some statistics from Glassdoor, which is a website that shows you like things about like company reviews, like what people are saying about where they work, the salaries, interview questions, things like that. It's very useful. Yeah, so Google makes a lot, Amazon makes a lot. Basically, all these companies make a lot. The total compensation is like whatever you make combined with all the factors within it, such as base salary, signing bonus, RSUs, and profit sharing, end of the year bonuses. Yeah, so depending on which state you live in, assuming you're going to work in the United States, expect to pay between 32 to 52% of your total income in taxes. And as you go up higher in the income range, then you'll get taxed more. So that's something to be aware of. So yeah, it consists of these factors: signing and relocation bonuses, your base salary, profit sharing, RSU shares, quarterly bonuses, your stock purchase plan, and profits on your own investments when you sell them. Yeah, so taxes are an inevitable part of life. Yeah. Yeah, so these are the things that just accumulate. Like, California has a state tax. If you work in, for example, Washington, they don't have a state tax, I believe, on income. Or I forget.
All I know is, I know Oregon is like they have no sales tax, but it's a higher property tax.
Yeah.
To account for that.
Yeah. So essentially, it's all comparable. Like, another thing to keep in mind is what's called cost of living, depending on the area you're in. So some areas like the Bay Area have higher cost of living, whereas somewhere in the Midwest, like Iowa, probably has a lower cost of living. So that's something to keep in mind. So like there's calculators that you could use to compare based on where you're located and see if they're equivalent amounts. Yeah, so that's how much you would have to pay in income taxes, which is a lot. And yeah, the more you make, the higher percentage you have to pay, and it goes up to 52%. So some of the personal suggestions that Carey mentioned were estimate your worst case of monthly expenses because, yeah, like if you're preparing for, so you want to, prepare for the worst and expect the best, I think. So yeah, there are factors like rent, gasoline, travel, clothing, fun amenities, car insurance, food, debt, utilities, things like that. Something to keep in mind. And also, what you want to do is you want to create an emergency fund. So this is like in the absolute worst case scenario, you don't have, you get fired, unfortunately. You have to find a place to live, like your tenant or your landlord is like going to evict you or something like that. So what you want to do is you want to immediately start saving up 9 months of funds to cover basically your living expenses for 9 months, because I think that's enough time to probably just like look for like employment if necessary, find handle your living situation and things like that. So you want to keep this money in a savings account where you could easily get it in an emergency, and make sure you can write checks with it because you'll probably be using that to handle like a lot of the living expenses because they normally don't like take cash or like credit or anything like that. So as your expenses go up, you also want to increase your emergency fund proportionally. So yeah, the amount you actually have to put into this fund will vary, but just be aware of having this, and this is a good backup plan in case things go south. The other thing is pay down your credit card loans. So if you have things like debt, you want to handle this as soon as possible. So you never want to keep a balance on your credit card. That's something to keep in mind because it'll accumulate. Pay down your student loans. So yeah, college is pretty expensive, but if you take out loans, it's probably going to compound over time a lot. So the sooner you pay it off, the better. So yeah, try to get those cleared as soon as possible. And then the fourth tip he recommended was investing the maximum in your 401k as soon as possible, and invest most or all of it in stocks. Because the rest, bonds and cash aren't going to give you a net profit of as much in the future. And more specifically, he recommended U.S. stock index funds. Yeah, but there's a saying that stocks are super risky, but okay, yeah, and what is an index fund? It's basically a company that first takes your money and lets you pick an index and divides your money and invests it for you in the index's stock. But we'll get to that in a bit. So yes, stocks are risky. They could drop a lot, but it's been noted that over a long term, they earn a lot more than some of the other investments. So if you put into like bonds, bills, gold, or dollars, it won't give you as much, like as proven over time. So even if there is like a downturn, so even if there is a downturn in like the economy or the market, it should rebound by the time you're retired because the economy is always fluctuating, but there's usually been cases where it inevitably will come back. So that's you don't have to worry too much about that. It'll recover. And as you near retirement, you can shift your 401k to less risky investments like bonds, which won't net you as much income, but it's more stable. So that's as time goes on. So what is an index fund? It's a published list of stocks of a certain category. You have it with the 500 biggest U.S. companies. Basically, these lists. And here are some of them. There's quite a few notable names here. It's a company that takes your money, such as like 10K, lets you pick an index such as the S&P 500, and it'll automatically divide your money and invest it for you in each of the indexes and stocks. So the brokerage company that runs your 401k, such as Vanguard for Google, will let you choose one or more index funds and let you invest your money with them. So you could pick your 401k company, Vanguard in this case. They'll put it into your S&P 500 they'll handle most of the logistical stuff. So indexes are great because you could spread your risk across hundreds of different stocks. So if one of them tanks, like you won't be completely done for. Like you could probably recover from that. So such as like the automotive industry or the computer industry. So even if individual stocks drop, it's dependent on the entire industry as a whole. So if Ford drops and Honda goes up, you could still get gain from it. And if Apple drops but Google goes up, then you can also your investment can also grow. And the S&P 500 has grown 12% on average since the year he was born. I forgot how old he is. He's around 40 something, like 44 or 5. He's around that age, so I guess that's good. So index investing is it's hard to find a good alternative. Like it's a good choice. I don't know this guy actually, but yeah. So the average stock picker gets beat by this index 3 out of 4 years, and other alternatives have pretty bad records. So this is probably your best option. But not all funds are created equal. You have what's called no-load funds as well as loaded funds. So a no-load fund charges minimal fees when you invest, whereas a loaded fund is one that charges high fees when you invest. So what Carey mentioned was you never want to invest in a loaded fund because they're basically out to take your money. So you have Vanguard, which is at 0.16% per year, versus Legg Mason, which is 1.15% per year. Yeah, so never invest in a loaded fund because you'll be earning a lot less in returns. Yeah, and that's just a graphical comparison right there. Yeah. So his fourth tip was investing the maximum in your 401k as soon as possible. You want to get a list of no-load index funds available in your 401k. Pick a corresponding S&P 500 fund or Wilshire 5000 fund. Basically any, basically any index. And yeah, these are some other tips like that. Yeah, you mentioned. You could throw 10% into an international stock index fund. Yeah, so going back on what was mentioned earlier, put most of your money in stocks first, and then as time goes on, as you reach middle age and closer to retirement age, that's when you should move your money out towards less risky investments such as bonds, gold, and things like that. Yeah, so his fifth tip, invest another 15% of your income into a no-load index fund. And if you just do a 401k, you won't have enough for certain things like a new home, college for your kids, or a cushy retirement. So that's sort of like where Mike mentioned you could invest it in another plan. Or what you could do is, okay, here's an example of his definition of fun. Looks fun. You can invest in other things outside of your 401k, like Mike mentioned. So you can open an account at a firm like Vanguard and, sorry, it froze. Basically, yeah, try to put away another 15% in index funds. And the nice thing is it doesn't take too much time, and you can set up capabilities to auto-deduct funds. So this is another important thing. Like, if you have the option, generally all companies should, but you could automatically have your settings such that certain parts of your income are deducted away and automatically put into things like stocks or your bank account, and it just automates the process, which is always a nice thing to have. So Carey's given a very aggressive investment strategy, and it makes sense when you're just like out of college, like you don't have like a family, you don't have a home. Well, I guess like other things to worry about yet. But once you want to do things like purchase a home or send kids to college, that's when you want to change your strategy slightly. And in this case, review it every few years and make changes if necessary. You could take a certain proportion out to invest in like a down payment for like a home, or you could put it into another account to help provide a college fund for your children. So just two final warnings that you have to keep in mind. Never hire a commission-based financial advisor because they're out to basically like take your money. What they do is they manage your investments on your behalf and charge fees every time they buy and sell investments for you. The problem is they want to do this very often. So they're constantly looking for opportunities to do this and basically take more money away from you. So if you ever need investment advice, hire a fee-based advisor because you pay them for a one-time review and there's no incentive for them to give you bad advice. So don't hire a commission-based financial advisor. And as mentioned earlier, work-life balance is very important. You don't want to like spend all of your time in work. Like, I guess if you really enjoy what you're doing, then I guess that is part of what makes it nice. But you want to balance out with other things. You have family, you have friends, you have personal hobbies, personal interests. So like you don't want to let like work consume like 24/7. Like whatever you do, like whatever you're interested in, you want to balance it out. And you need to balance your living standard with your living standard during retirement. So this is why it pays to plan ahead. If you spend all of your savings now, then you won't have anything like left in the future. So you really want to allocate like enough so that you'll have enough when you retire. And it might take like some adjustment at first, but if you do it right, then you'll generally be happier a lot happier over the course of your working lifetime. Yeah, so in summary, pick your job based on your manager, your ability to learn and grow, and the work-life balance and your quality of life from there. Create an emergency fund just in case you need some sort of backup. Max out your 401k and invest at least 15% more in stock index funds while you're young. Yeah, and taxes are terrible. It's a constant part of life, but we all have to deal with it, unfortunately. And Bernie is happy about it. And every few years, whenever you have a major life change, like you're gonna buy a house, you're gonna buy like a car or something along those lines, revisit and potentially update your strategy and take out funds if needed. But yeah, just don't go too crazy about it. If you have any questions, ask Carey because like he's the expert. And yeah, here's a photo of Woodrow Wilson. Yeah. Thank you guys. Yeah, it's a very comprehensive tutorial, and if you have any questions, like feel free to message him because he's very open about things like that. All right, so okay, we could probably end this now.